Good day. The topic today is project planning. So, when we talk about project planning, work breakdown chart, that is WBC, which is scheduling of a software project, does not differ greatly from scheduling of any multitask engineering effort. With that said, generalized project scheduling tools and techniques can be applied with little modification for software projects. PERT, Program Evaluation and Review Technique, and CPM, Critical Path Method, are two project scheduling methods that can be applied to software development. Both techniques are driven by information already developed in earlier project planning activities, estimates of effort, a decomposition of the product function, the selection of the appropriate process model and task set, and decomposition of the tasks that are selected. Interdependencies among tasks may be defined using a task network. Tasks, sometimes called the project work breakdown structure, are defined for the product as a whole or for individual functions. So both PERT, Program Evaluation Review Technique, and CPM, Critical Path Method, provide quantitative tools that allow you to identify the critical path, the chain of tasks that determines the duration of the project, establish most likely time estimates for individuals applying statistical methods, calculate the boundary time and the specific time window for a particular task. With that said about the project planning regarding the work breakdown structure, the work breakdown chart. So you can see the pictorial representation of a timeline chart. So here you can see about the list of tasks being listed on the left side, and you can see the weeks that will be listed on the top. That is about week one, these are the set of tasks, and week two, these are the set of tasks that will be carried out. And accordingly, you'll be able to know which week and are the tasks are in line properly. So that will make us understand where exactly is the project and if there are any changes that are to be made about expediting a particular task in order to keep up with the time. So timeline charts or work breakdown charts, when creating a software project schedule, we begin with a set of tasks. That is, okay, this is the main task and what are the subtasks involved in it. So if automated tools are used, the work breakdown is input as a task network or task outline. Effort, duration, and start date are then input for each task. In addition, tasks may be assigned to specific individuals. As a consequence of this input, a timeline chart, also called a Gantt chart, is generated. A timeline chart can be developed for the entire project. Alternatively, separate alternatively, separate charts can be developed for each project function or for each individual working on the project. So the figure in the next slide clearly showcases as an example the timeline chart. So it depicts a part of the software project schedule that emphasizes the scoping task for a word processing software project. So you can see the set of work tasks on the left about identifying the needs, benefits, and the subtasks listed for that about meeting with the customers, identifying the needs, and establishing the product statement. Then the next task about defining the desired output, control input. The subtask about the scope, documentation. Then another set of tasks about defining the function. For each of these, you can see the planned start, actual start. So that is what exactly did they plan for a particular date or a week, and what exactly happened. Were they able to really do it on a real-time basis? That is the actual start. So as per the planned, did they complete it? And actually did they complete it? So who was that particular task assigned to? And then the amount of effort that was involved, if there's any additional notes you wanted to make. So these things will be clearly listed out here in this chart. So the timeline charts will have all the project tasks on the left-hand column. The horizontal bars will indicate the duration of each task. When multiple bars occur at the same time on the calendar, then we need to name that as task concurrency. The diamonds indicate the milestones. Once the information necessary for the generation of a timeline chart has been input, the majority of software project scheduling tools produce project tables. A tabular listing of all project tasks, their planned and actual start and end dates, and a variety of related information. Used in conjunction with the timeline chart, project tables enable you to track the progress of where exactly the product is right now. So, why exactly projects are late? As we are discussing about project planning and how exactly this work breakdown chart or timeline chart or Gantt chart can really help us out list out all the tasks and timelines as well detailed there. Why do they exactly get there? So these are some of the reasons. An unrealistic deadline established by someone outside the software development may be the reason to that. Because they don't really know what are the tasks involved, how much time will it really take, they may not have that clarity. Next is changing customer requirements that are not reflected in schedule changes. So when the customer comes and requests from time to time about if there are any changing requirements, then obviously it's going to delay the delivery of the product. An honest underestimate of the amount of effort and or the number of resources that will be required to do the job. So if there was not proper effort that was estimated, then again you will not be able to deliver the product because you have very limited resources and you're not able to deliver what was asked for. Predictable and or unpredictable risks that were considered when the project commenced. So you did not really understand or listed that these may be the risks, and you did not really plan for a mitigation for that specific set of risks. And technical difficulties that could not have been foreseen in advance. So if there was any specific technical issues which was not planned as a risks and no mitigation was listed out. Human difficulties that could have not been foreseen in advance. If there was any human effort that was needed, skills that was not planned properly, then miscommunication among project staff that resulted. So they would have thought that okay, I thought I informed this person to get that completed, but that was not properly communicated to either of them, and nobody did really work on that particular task. So failure by project management to recognize that the project is falling behind schedule and the lack of action to correct the problem. So all these could be the reason of why a project being delayed, that is not having a proper deadline, changing customer requirements, estimation of the effort was not being done, risks were not listed properly, technical human difficulties were not really planned or predicted prior, and improper communication. All these could be the reason for project being delayed. So with that said, how much effort needs to be allocated? So front end needs to have 40 to 50% because there are activities like customer communication, analysis, design, review, and notification. Then construction activities wherein coding or code generation, which is at least need of 15 to 20%. Then finally, the testing and installation, wherein different types of testing like unit testing, integration testing, white box, black box testing, then regression testing. For all this, accordingly, resources needs to be allocated. That is front end 40 to 50%, construction activities 15 to 20%, testing and installation 30 to 40%. So the overall goal of project planning is to establish a pragmatic strategy for controlling, tracking, and monitoring a complex technical project. So why this has to be done? Because the end result needs to be done on time with quality is what the customer is expecting. So with that said, let us try to detail project planning as two task sets. Task set one, wherein project scope needs to be established. Then the feasibility study has to be done and determined properly. Risks will have to be analyzed. Then required resources needs to be defined. Resources like human resources, software, and environmental resources. If there are any reusable software that can be taken into consideration, that can also be done. Next task set is to estimate the cost and effort. Is you need to decompose the problem, develop two or more estimates using size, function points, process tasks, or use cases, reconcile the estimates, then develop a project schedule. That is a meaningful task set, defining a task network, scheduling tools to develop a timeline chart. Then you need to track that particular schedule. So defining a task set, that is to determine the type of project, assess the degree of rigor required, identify the adaptation criteria, and select the appropriate software engineering task. So you can see the task set refinement. So you can see a particular task that's being listed out, that is concept scoping. This is overall scope of the project. So here you can see for this particular concept scoping, there are various levels of subtasks, that is identifying the needs and benefits of the potential customers, defining the desired output for gas. There is additional subtask that is to review and derive a list of customer visible reviews. Then we have the next subtask and it keeps going. So you keep refining that specific set of tasks. So this is the task network. So here you can see concept scoping, concept planning, then the various assessment, proof of concept, the implementation, then integrate those concepts, and finally you get the feedback from the customer about if this is what they expected or if there are any changes. Yes, if there are any changes, the feedback was provided by the customer. Then you may have to see where exactly the requirements was not followed. And you try to find out if it was exactly given by the customer or if it was a new requirement that was being posted from the customer side. With that all said, this is how you need to have the project planning, understanding about how do you really track it, how exactly you have the different tasks set and take it forward. So we come to the end of the session, and for additional information, you may try to refer these resources. Thank you.